Hi, I'm Dr. Randy Spade. I do have extensive experience with horticulture and arboriculture, and I have evaluated the trees up on the highway as well as the entrances at both streets. The cherry trees, first of all, were improperly pruned and not sealed. Therefore, there are 6-inch to 12-inch stumps sticking out, and they have rotted. There are diseases, there are insects, there are borers inside, there are ants living inside as well as termites. Those trees can probably survive the flowering season as well as the leafy season as well. My recommendation is that after the leaves fall, later in the summer, early fall, they become a liability because the insects will hollow out the trees. You end up with a very large branch that's going to fall either on the road or cause problems with the wires overhead. Suggestion: contact the power company or the utility companies and ask them to trim them off the wires, and then ask the landscaper who gave good advice about the diseased trees if the price will come down for removal. If in fact you don't wish to spend the extra money grinding the stumps, you can choose a different location for the next trees to be planted. Cut them level, cover them with mulch, and then plant something new, such as a Drake elm, or you could put in the crepe myrtles that someone had suggested, or even red maples that are a little slower growing cultivars. They'd last a long time. Now at the other entrances, there are a couple dead trees that need to be removed as soon as possible because they're just going to fall. The diameter is less than 6 inches, so that would be relatively simple. There are some hollies down there with the thorns on the ends. If a landscaper decided to find the individual bushes, they could be shaped up relatively simply and become much more attractive and appealing. As far as some of the other trees are concerned, the suckers, the little shoots coming off the branches, can be removed, but the dead trees are going to be a liability. Up there at the entrance across the street, there are some barberry, which are just starting to leaf out. After the leaves are there and the flowers are gone, they can be trimmed back a third. There are a couple of dwarf gardenias which are sprawling. Once again, a landscaper with some skill can reshape the individual bushes, and at the end of the summer, after the blooming, they can be trimmed back at least a third, and they will look a lot better. There are a couple places on both sides of the entrance wall where they could be handled. The holly tree that's growing over top can be trimmed where the plant comes over the top of the wall onto the space for the entrance. As long as the landowner knows, they could be trimmed as well, probably with a bucket truck. As far as coming downhill into the neighborhood, there are some hydrangeas which are planted a little too close to the curb, and they're struggling to survive with the trees there trying to get the water. They're not flourishing, so I recommend removing them. You could go with a number of different choices in the middle rather than camellias. You could go even with azaleas, you could go with viburnum, you could go with loropetalum, and a number of other abelia species and dwarf hollies. And then some perennials would spice it up as well. The camellias at the top and the bottom are healthy. They can use some additional fertilizer, a slow release, and some mulch. Once the flowers are completely gone, they can be trimmed about a third to reshape them. The ones closer to the highway could be trimmed very carefully to make it easier for residents exiting the neighborhood to see over them. Do not do anything to the cutleaf maples. They're not designed for that. At either entrance, the cut leaves look fine. Give the camellias some fertilizer, put some new plants in that median area, and consider some perennials for the other entrances. These are my recommendations. If you have additional questions, you can just let Kristen know and I'd be happy to answer them. Your landscaper recommendations are excellent and right on target. Sorry that the cherry trees are diseased. The landscaper apparently did not know how to prune correctly nor seal, and it resulted in the trees being hollowed out by insects and disease, and ultimately they will fail. Kind of an overview. I hope this is useful to the team making the decisions.